The soft hum of the ship's engines provided a calming background noise as Ambassador Gregory Lewis stared out at the vast emptiness of space. Stars twinkled in the distance, each one a potential home to civilizations humanity had yet to discover. But today humans would officially meet their first alien species, the Zilarians. "Ambassador will reach the meeting point in 2 hours," said Captain Eric Daniels, entering the observation deck. His uniform was pressed perfectly, not a wrinkle to be seen. Lewis nodded, his gray hair catching the light from the nearby sun. At 58, he had spent most of his life bringing people together. He had helped end wars on Earth and created peace where none seemed possible. But this mission was different. This time he represented not just a country, but all of humanity. "Trinkung, you captain. Are the final reports ready?" Lewis asked, turning away from the window. "Yes, sir. Olivia has them prepared in your quarters," Daniels replied. His eyes showed concern that his words did not express. "Are you sure about going alone? We could send a security team with you." Lewis smiled gently. The Zilarians were clear in their message. One representative unarmed. We need to show trust if we want to receive it. The captain didn't seem convinced, but he nodded anyway. The UNSA vessel, Harbinger, was the pride of Earth's small space fleet. Built for diplomacy rather than war, it carried the hopes of 8 billion humans within its walls. Down the corridor in his private quarters, Lewis found Olivia Mason organizing digital files on a large screen. At 34, she had proven herself as one of Earth's best linguistic experts. Her skills had been crucial in decoding the first Zilarian messages 6 months ago. "I've highlighted the key cultural notes we've gathered so far," she said without looking up. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen, sorting information. "They seem to value direct communication but have very specific body language rules." Lewis sat down across from her. "What should I avoid?" Olivia pulled up a list. "Based on our limited observations, don't show your palms directly to them. It might be seen as aggressive. Keep your voice level. They might interpret emotional changes as dishonesty. And most importantly, maintain eye contact with whoever is speaking." "That doesn't sound too difficult," Lewis said, studying the notes carefully. Olivia finally looked up, concern written across her face. "The problem is that we know so little. There could be 100 other rules we haven't discovered yet." "That's always the risk with first contacts," Lewis replied calmly. "We do our best with what we know." A soft beep from the communication system interrupted them. Director Patricia Walsh's face appeared on the screen, transmitted from Earth with a 15-minute delay. "Greg," she said, using his first name as she always did in private conversations. They had known each other for 30 years, climbing the ranks of diplomacy together. "The Security Council just finished their final briefing. The mission parameters remain unchanged." Lewis nodded. "I expected as much. Remember, this is an exploratory meeting only. You're authorized to discuss cultural exchange and basic scientific cooperation. No military matters, no detailed Earth locations beyond what they already know," Walsh continued, her face serious. "And Greg, remember that you carry the hopes of humanity with you. Make us proud, but come home safe." The message ended, leaving Lewis and Olivia in silence for a moment. "She's worried," Olivia observed. "We all are," Lewis admitted. "But fear can't guide us now." Across the stars, on the massive Zilarian command ship Eternal Vigilance, a very different meeting was taking place. Supreme Arbiter Zexalon stood before the High Council, his scaled skin reflecting the blue light of the chamber. 7 other Zilarians sat in a half-circle before him, each representing a major world in their confederation. "The human vessel approaches the meeting point as agreed," Zexalon reported, his voice deep and measured. "They have followed our instructions exactly." Councillor Vexidar, the oldest member of the council, clicked her claws against the metal table. "That proves nothing. Many dangerous species appear compliant at first." "The humans have shown no aggression," Zexalon countered. "Their messages have been consistently peaceful, as were the messages of the Crawl before they destroyed 3 of our colonies," another councillor hissed. We cannot risk another such mistake. Zexlon moved to the center of the room where a holographic image of Earth appeared. This species is different. They've barely left their planet. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Which makes them no threat now, Vexstar agreed. But their advancement rate is concerning. No species we've encountered has moved from primitive flight to space travel so quickly. In 100 years, what will they become? The council chamber fell silent as each member considered the question. The Zellarian Confederation had existed for over 2,000 years, encountering dozens of alien species. Their protocols for handling potential threats had been refined through painful experience. We will proceed with the diplomatic meeting, Zexalon finally declared. But security measures will remain at highest levels. If there is any sign of deception or aggression, we implement protocol severing. The counselors nodded in agreement, some more reluctantly than others. Back on the Harbinger, Lewis prepared to board the small shuttle that would take him to the neutral meeting station. The station itself was of Zellarian design, positioned exactly halfway between their territories. Captain Daniels and Olivia stood in the launch bay as Lewis performed final checks on his communication devices. The shuttle is programmed to return automatically if something goes wrong, Daniels explained. Just hit this emergency button and it will bring you back immediately. Lewis nodded, though he had been briefed on this several times already. Olivia stepped forward, handing him a small datapad. Last-minute cultural notes. I'll be monitoring your communication feed the entire time. I'll be fine, Lewis assured them both with a confident smile. This is what I've trained for my entire life. As he boarded the shuttle, Lewis felt a strange mix of emotions. Fear, certainly. Only a fool wouldn't be afraid when meeting an advanced alien species. But stronger than fear was hope. If this meeting went well, humanity would enter a new age of discovery and growth. The shuttle door closed with a soft hiss. Through the window, Lewis could see Olivia giving him a thumbs up while Daniel stood at attention, offering a formal salute. Minutes later, the small craft detached from the Harbinger and began its journey toward the station. Lewis watched as the human ship grew smaller behind him, while ahead, the cylindrical form of the meeting station grew larger against the backdrop of distant stars. His communication system activated once more. Ambassador, Captain Daniels' voice came through clearly. Good luck. We'll be watching and waiting for your return. Lewis took a deep breath as the shuttle approached the alien station's docking port. History was about to be made, and he was at its center. For better or worse, nothing would be the same after today. Beginning docking sequence, the shuttle's automated system announced. Prepare for arrival. Gregory Lewis straightened his uniform and prepared to become the first human to officially meet an alien civilization face-to-face. The docking clamp secured with a metallic thud, and Ambassador Gregory Lewis felt his stomach tighten. The shuttle's door opened with a soft hiss, revealing a long, dimly lit corridor ahead. Taking a deep breath, he stepped onto the station. 3 Zellarians waited for him. Lewis had seen images before, but nothing prepared him for standing before them. Each alien stood nearly 7 feet tall with slim bodies covered in pale blue scales. Their faces featured 4 yellow eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and their mouths were lipless slits that barely moved when they spoke. Welcome, Ambassador of Earth, said the middle Zellarian. Its voice came through a translation device attached to its chest. The sound was flat but understandable. I am First Emissary Krell. These are my assistants. Lewis bowed slightly, careful to keep his hands at his sides as Olivia had advised. Thank you for welcoming me, First Emissary. I bring greetings from Earth and all its nations. Krell's upper eyes blinked slowly. Follow me to the meeting chamber. We have much to discuss. The station's corridors curved gently, with glowing blue lines running along the walls. Lewis noticed the temperature was cooler than humans would typically prefer, and the air had a slight metallic taste. He recorded mental notes of everything for his report. The meeting chamber was a large circular room with a round table in the center. 7 more Zellarians waited inside, their posture stiff and formal. The High Council observers, Krell explained. They will not speak but will report. To Supreme Arbiter Zexlon, Lewis nodded. I understand. On Earth, we often have silent observers at important meetings too. For 3 hours, Lewis and Krell exchanged information about their respective worlds. Lewis shared details about Earth's geography, basic history, and cultural diversity. He carefully avoided any information that might reveal Earth's military capabilities or weaknesses. At the end of the first day, Krell escorted Lewis to private quarters prepared for him. We will continue tomorrow, the alien said, leaving Lewis alone. As soon as the door closed, Lewis activated his secure communication device. Olivia's face appeared on the small screen. How's it going? She asked anxiously. The feed from your camera is clear, but it's hard to read their reactions. I think it's going well, Lewis replied quietly. They're cautious but not hostile. Tomorrow I'll present our proposal for cultural exchange. Olivia nodded. Good. The language team is working overtime analyzing their speech patterns. We're learning more about their communication style. Any new warnings I should know about? Lewis asked. Just one, Olivia said. Don't cross your arms or make sweeping gestures. From what we've observed in their transmissions, those might signal aggression or territorial claims. Understood. I'll keep my movements minimal, Lewis promised. The second day of negotiations went smoothly. Lewis presented Earth's proposal for a cultural exchange program, including the possibility of hosting Zalarian scholars on Earth and sending human researchers to learn about Zalarian civilization. Krell seemed interested but remained guarded. Your proposal will be considered. Tomorrow we will discuss limited technology sharing. On the third day, everything changed. Lewis entered the meeting chamber to find not only Krell and the observers, but also a new Zalarian wearing ornate silver armor. Ambassador Lewis, Krell said. This is Defense Minister Vrax. He wishes to hear more about human technological capabilities. Lewis felt uncomfortable with this change, but nodded politely. I'd be happy to discuss general technology levels, though I'm not authorized to share specific military information. For the next hour, Vrax asked increasingly pointed questions about Earth's space fleet, defense systems, and resource extraction capabilities. Lewis carefully avoided direct answers while trying to remain friendly. Your species has achieved much. In a short time, Vrax noted, his tone impossible to read through the translator. How many warships do you currently maintain? The United Nations Space Administration focuses primarily on exploration and diplomacy, Lewis replied diplomatically. Our current fleet is small and mostly scientific in nature. Vrax leaned forward. Yet you develop weapons? Lewis felt sweat forming on his forehead. The conversation was heading into dangerous territory. All species must defend themselves, but Earth's primary focus is peaceful cooperation. Vrax and Krell exchanged looks that Lewis couldn't interpret. The tension in the room grew thicker. Perhaps we should return to discussing cultural exchange, Lewis suggested, trying to steer the conversation back to safer ground. As he spoke, he unconsciously made a sweeping gesture with his right hand, palm open toward the Zalarians. The effect was immediate. All the Zalarians stiffened and Vrax rose to his feet. You make the symbol of dominance while speaking of peace? He hissed. This confirms our suspicions. Lewis realized his mistake too late. No, I apologize if my gesture was offensive. In human culture, this is simply silence, Krell interrupted, also standing now. You were warned about showing open palms. This is the universal sign of territorial challenge. There's been a misunderstanding, Lewis said desperately. This gesture means openness in my culture, not aggression. But the Zalarians were no longer listening. Vrax spoke rapidly in their native language, and 2 guards entered the room. Ambassador Gregory Lewis, Krell announced formally, you have revealed your true intentions through the sacred gesture of claiming. This station is now under security protocol. Lewis stood up, his heart racing. Please, this is a cultural misunderstanding. Let me explain. There is nothing to explain. Vrax cut him off. Your deception was expected. The High Council will now determine your fate and that of your species. The guards moved forward and took Lewis by the arms. His communication device was confiscated, cutting off his link to the Harbinger. On the Harbinger, panic erupted as Lewis's feed suddenly went dead. "What happened?" Captain Daniels demanded, standing over the communication station. "Signal lost, sir," a technician reported. "The ambassador's device has been deactivated or destroyed." Olivia's face had gone pale. "They were talking about gestures just before the feed cut. I think he accidentally made one of their taboo movements." "Prepare a rescue team," Daniels ordered. "We need to—" "Captain," the sensor officer interrupted. "The station has activated defense systems and 3 Zalarian warships just decloaked. They're surrounding the station." Daniels froze, weighing his options. The Harbinger was outgunned and outmatched. "Sir," the communication officer called out. "We're receiving a transmission from the station. It's on all frequencies, being broadcast to us and back to Earth." "On screen," Daniels ordered. The main view screen lit up, showing Ambassador Lewis standing in what appeared to be a trial chamber. His hands were bound and he was surrounded by armed Zalarians. Before him stood a holographic image of Supreme Arbiter Zexlon. "People of Earth," Zexlon's translated voice boomed. "Your envoy has committed the grave offense of territorial challenge while engaging in diplomatic deception. Such actions cannot go unpunished." Lewis tried to speak, but his voice was muted. Only his desperate expression was visible. "As is our law with all aggressive species," Zexlon continued, "the punishment is swift and final. Let this serve as warning to all humans. Return to your world and remain there. Any further expansion will be met with immediate force," Olivia screamed as a Zalarian guard raised a weapon. Captain Daniels turned away, but most of the bridge crew watched in horror as Ambassador Gregory Lewis, Earth's first envoy to the stars, was executed on live broadcast. The screen went black except for a final message in both Zalarian and English. "This matter is concluded." On the bridge of the Harbinger, Captain Daniels turned to his crew, his face ashen but his voice steady. "Set course for Earth maximum speed, and send everything we've recorded to UNSA headquarters." He looked at the blank screen one last time. They need to know what just happened. Olivia sat frozen at her station, tears streaming down her face. "It was just a hand gesture," she whispered. "Just a simple misunderstanding." But she knew, as did everyone on the ship, that this misunderstanding would change the course of human history forever. The UNSA headquarters in Geneva had never been so silent. In the main conference room, 28 world leaders sat stunned, staring at the now blank screen that had just shown Ambassador Lewis's execution. The broadcast had reached Earth 40, minutes after the actual event due to the distance. Director Patricia Walsh stood at the front of the room, her hands gripping the podium so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Her oldest friend had just been murdered before her eyes, yet she couldn't allow herself to grieve. Not now. Not when every decision made in this room could determine humanity's future. "The Harbinger is returning to Earth," she said, breaking the silence. Her voice was steady despite the storm inside her. "Captain Daniels reports that 3 Zalarian warships are monitoring their departure, but not pursuing." President Samantha Carter of the North American Alliance rose from her seat. At 52, she had led her nation through natural disasters and economic crises, but nothing had prepared her for this. "We need to understand exactly what happened," she said. "Was this truly just a misunderstanding about a hand gesture?" "Based on the communication logs from Ambassador Lewis, yes," Walsh confirmed. "A simple cultural mistake that the Zalarians refused to accept as such. They chose to interpret it as deliberate deception." General Frank Morris of the Global Defense Force slammed his fist on the table. "They were looking for an excuse. This was planned from the beginning. They wanted to send us a message." Several leaders nodded in agreement. "What are our options?" asked the European Union Chancellor. "We can't allow the murder of our ambassador to go unanswered, but we must be realistic about our capabilities." "General," Morris laughed bitterly. "Realistic? Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. The Harbinger is our most advanced ship, and it would be destroyed in seconds if it tried to fight even one Zalarian vessel." "So we do nothing?" the Brazilian president demanded. "We accept that they can execute our people without consequences?" "President," Carter raised her hand for quiet. Before we continue this discussion, there's someone else who should be heard. She nodded to Walsh. Director, please invite Dr. Murphy to join us. Walsh pressed a button on her console. Moments later, the doors opened, and a thin man with tired eyes entered. Dr. Alan Murphy looked nothing like the head of the most secretive division in UNSA. With his rumpled clothing and nervous demeanor, he could have been mistaken for an academic, accidentally wandering into the wrong meeting. Dr. Murphy leads our Advanced Weapons Division, President Carter explained to those who didn't recognize him. Doctor, please tell them what you told me earlier. Murphy cleared his throat and stepped forward. After first contact with the Zolarians 6 months ago, several nations quietly agreed to fund a contingency project. He glanced around nervously. Not everyone in this room was informed due to security concerns. Several leaders frowned at this. Revelation. What kind of contingency? The Russian Federation president asked. Protocol Omega, Murphy replied, activating a holographic display in the center of the table. It showed schematics for small, drone-like devices. We feared that an advanced species might not have peaceful intentions. History has taught us that when technologically superior civilizations encounter less advanced ones, the results are rarely good for the less advanced group. Walsh leaned forward. What exactly does Protocol Omega involve, Doctor? Autonomous weapon platforms, Murphy explained. Thousands of them hidden in facilities around the world. They use technology that we've developed in secret, partly reverse-engineered from studying Zolarian communication signals. The hologram changed to show the drone's internal systems. The key breakthrough was developing a way to target specific biological and technological signatures, Murphy continued. The drones can distinguish between Zolarian and human technology. They're designed to disable rather than destroy when possible, targeting communication systems, weapons, and propulsion. Are you saying we actually have weapons that could harm the Zolarians? General Morris asked, his voice skeptical. More than harm, Murphy replied quietly. If deployed in sufficient numbers, Protocol Omega could effectively cripple their entire civilization. The room erupted in shocked whispers. And this system is ready? President Carter asked. Murphy nodded. The platforms are built and programmed. They can be launched within 12 hours. Walsh looked at the doctor with disbelief. Why wasn't I informed about this project? Compartmentalization, Murphy answered simply. The fewer people who knew, the less chance of the Zolarians detecting it. The project was classified beyond even your clearance level, Director. President. Carter returned to the podium. We now have a choice to make. Do we activate Protocol Omega, or do we seek a diplomatic solution despite what has happened? The Indian Prime Minister spoke up. The Zolarians have already shown they don't respect diplomatic solutions. They executed our ambassador over a hand gesture. What would stop them from attacking Earth directly if they decide we're a threat? But to cripple an entire civilization, the Japanese representative countered. The moral implications are staggering. More staggering than watching them execute more of our people? General Morris retorted. They've already made their intentions clear. The debate continued for hours. Outside the conference room, news of Ambassador Lewis's execution had spread worldwide. Billions of humans watched footage of the killing, and global outrage grew by the minute. Protests formed outside Zolarian observation posts that had been established on Earth months earlier. As night fell in Geneva, President Carter called for a final vote. I believe we need to show strength now or face subjugation later, she said, solemnly. I vote to authorize Protocol Omega. One by one, the world leaders cast their votes. The decision wasn't unanimous, but the majority was clear. Protocol Omega is authorized, Carter announced, turning to Dr. Murphy. Begin preparations immediately. Murphy nodded and left the room to make the necessary calls. After the meeting ended, Walsh found herself alone with President Carter in a small side office. Greg believed in peaceful solutions, Walsh said quietly, finally allowing herself to think of Lewis as a friend rather than just an ambassador. He would have argued against this. Carter placed a hand on Walsh's shoulder. Perhaps, but he's not here to argue because they killed him. Her voice hardened. They believed us weak and thought they could execute our envoy without consequences. They will learn that humanity does not forgive such actions. On the Harbinger, still 2 days from Earth, Captain Daniels received an encrypted message from ANSE headquarters. After reading it, he called Olivia Mason to his office. "We've been ordered to maintain our current position," he told her. "We're not returning to Earth yet." Olivia looked confused. "Why? What's happening?" Daniels handed her the tablet with the message. "Earth is responding to the ambassador's execution. We're to observe from a safe distance and record everything." As Olivia read the message, her eyes widened. "Protocol Omega? What is that?" "I don't know the details," Daniels admitted. "But whatever it is, the Zellarians are about to discover that killing Ambassador Lewis was the worst mistake they could have made." Olivia stared out the window at the distant stars, wondering what humanity was about to unleash upon the galaxy. Deep beneath the Montana mountains, Dr. Alan Murphy walked through a massive underground hangar. Thousands of small silver drones lined the walls from floor to ceiling, each about the size of a basketball. Similar facilities existed in the Sahara Desert, the Australian outback, and beneath the Antarctic ice, hidden from both human and alien eyes. "Begin activation sequence," Murphy ordered, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. Technicians moved with practiced efficiency, despite never having expected to actually use these weapons. One by one, the drones came to life, small blue lights blinking on their smooth surfaces. "All units report ready status," announced the lead technician, her face illuminated by multiple screens. "Deployment vehicles are prepped and waiting." Murphy nodded and pressed his palm against a biometric scanner. A final authorization screen appeared, requiring the codes that President Carter had just transmitted. "May God forgive us," he whispered as he entered the launch codes. Above ground, massive hangar doors slid open in remote locations across Earth. Unmarked transport vessels rose into the night sky, each carrying hundreds of the specialized drones. To any observer, they appeared to be ordinary satellites being launched into orbit, a common enough sight that even the Zellarian observation posts took little notice. In Zellarian space, Supreme Arbiter Zexalon addressed the High Council with satisfaction. "The human vessel has retreated as ordered," he reported. "Our message has been delivered clearly. The execution of their envoy has shown them the price of deception." Counselor Vexisdar seemed less certain. Was the execution necessary? If it truly was a cultural misunderstanding? "It was not," interrupted Defense Minister Vrax firmly. "I observed the human closely. The gesture was deliberate, a test to see how we would respond to their aggression. Regardless," Zexalon continued, "we should increase monitoring of Earth. If they show signs of military buildup or further space expansion, we may need to consider a preemptive containment action." The council members nodded in agreement, unaware that Earth's response was already in motion. On the Harbinger, Captain Daniels and Olivia Mason watched their sensor displays with growing amazement. "Those can't be ordinary satellites," Daniels said as the computer tracked dozens of objects leaving Earth's atmosphere. "They're moving too fast and changing direction too easily." Olivia studied the data. Their trajectory suggests they're heading directly towards Zellarian space. But how? Could they reach it quickly? Even at maximum speed, the Harbinger took weeks to get here. Unless... Daniels pulled up older sensor logs. "When we first arrived, we detected unusual energy readings that we couldn't explain. What if Earth has developed faster propulsion technology in secret?" Their questions were answered moments later, when the satellites suddenly accelerated to speeds the Harbinger's sensors could barely track. "My God," whispered Daniels. "How is that possible?" A secure message arrived from UNSA headquarters. "Operation Omega active. Maintain safe distance and record all events. Do not engage under any circumstances." The first wave of human drones reached the outer Zellarian defense perimeter within days, far faster than the aliens believed possible for human technology. Using advanced stealth systems, they slipped past the early warning networks. On the Zellarian homeworld of Zellar Prime, Zexalon was awakened by an urgent message. Supreme Arbiter, a military commander, appeared on screen, his scales darkened with stress. We're detecting multiple system failures across our defense grid. Communications are dropping throughout the outer colonies. Zexalon rose quickly. Oh, malfunction? No, sir, we believe it's an attack, but we can't identify the source. Our sensors show nothing, yet our systems are shutting down one by one. Impossible, Zexalon hissed. The humans lack such capabilities. But even as he spoke, the lights in his chamber flickered. Throughout the capital city, power systems began to fail. The Omega drones operated with ruthless efficiency. Rather than explosive weapons, they deployed specialized nanite swarms that targeted specific Zalarian technology. Communication arrays went silent. Defense systems powered down. Military vessels drifting in space found their engines and weapons suddenly inoperative. When Zalarian forces managed to destroy a drone, two more took its place. They seemed to be everywhere at once, striking with precision that suggested intimate knowledge of Zalarian infrastructure. On the third day of the attack, a second wave of human vessels arrived in Zalarian space. These were larger ships carrying actual human crews, the first true military force Earth had sent beyond its solar system. Admiral Linda Hayes stood on the bridge of the UNSA Retribution, humanity's first warship. Built in secret alongside the Omega program, it was armed with weapons designed specifically to combat Zalarian defenses. Status report, Hayes ordered, as her fleet surrounded Zalar Prime. The drones have neutralized 86% of their military capacity, reported her tactical officer. Their major cities are without power, and their fleet is effectively disabled. They can't coordinate a response. Hayes nodded. Open a channel to their leadership. On Zalar Prime, Zexalon and the remaining High Council members gathered in an emergency bunker powered by backup generators. When the human transmission came through, they stared in disbelief at Admiral Hayes' face on their screen. "This is Admiral Linda Hayes of the United Nations Space Administration," she announced, her voice cold and precise. "Your civilization is now under our control. Your military has been neutralized, your communications severed. We control your orbital space." Zexalon stepped forward, trying to maintain dignity despite the situation. "How is this possible? Your technology was primitive compared to ours." "We let you believe that," Hayes replied. "While your observation post monitored our public space program, our real advances remained hidden. You underestimated us, a mistake you won't have the opportunity to repeat." Defense Minister Vrax pushed forward. "If you think we will surrender, you already have." Hayes interrupted. "This is not a negotiation. Your options are simple. Accept our terms or we will escalate from disabling your systems to destroying them permanently." She paused to let her words sink in. "Your first act will be to broadcast an apology for the illegal execution of Ambassador Gregory Lewis to every world in your confederation." Vexstar, always the most moderate voice on the council, spoke up. "And if we comply? What then? Earth is sending diplomatic representatives to oversee your disarmament and establish new terms for our coexistence," Hayes explained. "Unlike you, we do not execute envoys over misunderstandings. But make no mistake, any further aggression will be met with complete annihilation." The transmission ended, leaving the Zalarian leaders in stunned silence. On the Harbinger, Captain Daniels and Olivia watched as Zalarian news broadcasts showed their military vessels drifting powerless in space, surrounded by Earth ships that hadn't existed weeks ago. "How did we do this?" Olivia asked, still struggling to comprehend the rapid reversal of fortunes. Daniels shook his head in amazement. "It seems Earth had contingency plans we knew nothing about. The Zalarians thought they were dealing with a naive, technologically inferior species." He paused, watching as more human ships appeared on their sensors. They were wrong. A message arrived from Admiral Hayes. "Harbinger crew, return to Zalar Prime. You will witness their formal surrender and apology for Ambassador Lewis's death." Olivia closed her eyes briefly, thinking of the kind man who had died trying to build peace. "It shouldn't have come to this," she whispered. "No," Daniels agreed. "But they made their choice when they executed him without giving him a chance to explain. Now they're learning what happens when you push humanity too far." As the Harbinger changed course toward the Zilarian homeworld, news was already spreading throughout the galaxy. The seemingly primitive humans had brought the mighty Zilarian Confederation to its knees in less than a week. Earth was no longer seen as an emerging curiosity but as a formidable power that had hidden its true capabilities until provoked. Annihilation mode had been activated, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months after the implementation of Protocol Omega, the Great Hall of the United Nations in New York City hosted an event unlike any in human history. Representatives from 12 alien civilizations sat alongside Earth's leaders, witnessing the signing of the Galactic Cooperation Treaty. Olivia Mason, now Earth's chief ambassador following her first-hand experience with the Zilarians, stood at the podium. She had never wanted this role, but after what happened to Gregory Lewis, she felt a duty to continue his work. Today marks a new chapter not just for humanity, but for all sentient species who seek peaceful cooperation. She addressed the assembly. Her voice was firm and confident, though those who knew her well could still see the shadows of grief in her eyes. In the front row sat a delegation of Zilarians, including Supreme Arbiter Zexalon. Their once proud posture was now subdued. Under the terms dictated by Earth, the Zilarian military had been largely dismantled, their territory reduced, and their government now operated under human oversight. The path that brought us here was marked by tragedy, Olivia continued. The execution of Ambassador Gregory Lewis nearly led our worlds to destruction. Instead, it has led us to this moment of reconciliation. Zexalon rose when called upon, his scales now a paler blue than before, a sign of stress in Zilarian physiology. The Zilarian Confederation acknowledges its grave error, he stated formally. We mistook a cultural difference for aggression and responded with unwarranted violence. We accept the terms of this treaty and the oversight of Earth representatives. What none of the aliens knew, what even most humans didn't know, was that Protocol Omega had been partly a bluff. Dr. Murphy's team had gambled everything on a single overwhelming show of force. The nanite technology that had disabled Zilarian systems couldn't be produced on a large enough scale to maintain control indefinitely. Earth had won not through superior firepower, but through the perception of overwhelming strength. President Carter had insisted this information remain classified. Let them believe we could do it again if necessary, she had told her advisors. Fear will keep them in line until trust can be established. After the ceremony, Admiral Daniels, promoted, after the successful operation, found Olivia staring out at the New York skyline. Penny for your thoughts, Ambassador? He asked, joining her by the window. Olivia smiled sadly. I was thinking about Greg. He wanted peaceful first contact so badly. Instead, he became a martyr for a war he would have hated. Daniels nodded solemnly. True, but his death changed everything. Before we were just another emerging species. Now every civilization in the galaxy approaches us with caution. And fear, Olivia added. Is that really what we wanted? Sometimes respect begins with fear, Daniels replied. The Zilarians made a fatal error when they executed Greg. They thought it would frighten us into submission. Instead, they awakened something they never anticipated. Our unwillingness to leave any attack unanswered, Olivia finished, and our ability to transform grief into resolve, Daniels added. Later that evening, after the diplomats and leaders had departed, Olivia visited the memorial that had been built for Ambassador Lewis in Central Park. A simple stone monument with his likeness, surrounded by flowers from a dozen worlds. Dr. Murphy was already there, laying a white rose at the base. I never met him, Murphy said as Olivia approached. But I feel like I know him through what happened after. He would have been horrified by what we did, Olivia said honestly. Murphy nodded. Perhaps, but sometimes the threat of annihilation prevents the need for actual destruction. We didn't destroy the Zilarians, we just showed them we could. As they stood in silence, a notification appeared on Olivia's tablet. The Galactic Classification Bureau, an organization of older spacefaring species, had updated Earth status in their official records. Previously, Humans had been listed as emerging species, limited spatial range. The new classification read, full galactic power, approach with caution. Olivia showed it to Murphy, who raised an eyebrow. Is that good thing? He asked. I don't know, Olivia admitted, but it means they'll think twice before executing another one of our envoys. She placed her hand gently on the cool stone of Lewis's memorial. We made it, Greg, she whispered. They'll never underestimate us again. As night fell over Earth, ships from a dozen worlds orbited peacefully overhead. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage in a way no one had expected, through grief, resolve, and the activation of annihilation mode. The universe would never be the same. The end.